Well, what a race it was in Spain last time around, as we are now here in Monte Carlo. The F2 drivers preparing for their qualifying session, as I'm here with Will Buxton and Ted Kravitz. How are you guys after Spain, and what is there to look forward to this weekend when it comes to F2?
I'm really looking forward to how the drivers can perform on the track itself, Monaco being one of, if not the most difficult track on the calendar for Formula racing. We don't get to see many young drivers take on the track at the distance of a full race. Because of how close you are to one another, the F2 cars will have a bit of an easier time around the track compared to the much larger F1 cars. But I'm sure we will probably see some front wing changes as well as some drop in performance due to some damage on the drivers' cars.
It is always a spectacle to watch when we come to Monaco. And it always comes down to who can get the closest to the walls in order to squeeze out as much time from this track as possible. And with the recent regulation change to remove the sprint races in F2, it allows each of the teams to take that much more risk. And that's all it is here in Monte Carlo. It's just a matter of not making a mistake before anyone else. I'm sure we are in for an exciting F2 race.
The grid is all set for the race tomorrow, but before we go, let's quickly remind ourselves of our top three, which are Johnson, Pourchaire and Liam Lawson. With qualifying complete, all that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the feature race tomorrow, so make sure you join us then. Monaco. Formula 2 has been welcomed back to this most famous of race locations, and the excitement in the air is building as we count down to the start of today's race. The Circuit de Monaco is, for all practical purposes, pretty much unchanged since its 1929 introduction. It's strange to consider, but this 2.1-mile lap will take the drivers here around almost an entire country. 19 corners, but not that many opportunities for overtaking. Instead, this is a track that rewards technical skill. Let's look at the grid order for today's race while the cars make their final preparations. Johnson lines up on pole position, with Théo Pourchaire starting alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Lawson, Vips, Dennis Hauger, Novalak, Williams, Caldwell, Awasa, Marino Sato, Vesti, Hughes, Marcus Armstrong, Logan Sargent, and Drugovic, Fittipaldi, Calderon, and Jan Deruvala. Cordial, Vishaw, Boschong, and Roy Nissany completes the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track. Joining me for the race today, I'm delighted to welcome back to the commentary box the 2012 GP2 champion, Davide Valsecchi. Davide, it's great to have you with us for today's race. Any tips for our drivers out on the track today?
It's a real pleasure to be here, Alex. We are in for a spectacular day in Formula 2. My advice is to stay calm, look after the car, look after the tires, but don't be afraid to push when you see an opportunity. Using the DRS on some of those long straights will be crucial for the driver looking to make a challenge.
The formation lap gets underway for this, the Formula 2 race, and every driver will be looking to settle in for the race ahead, making sure the car is ready for battle once the lights go out. We are almost ready to start the Formula 2 race as the cars take their positions on the grid, with the drivers and teams making their final preparations.
Hello and welcome to Monaco. Surprising start for us here in P1. I believe that's Porcher in P2 from session number 2, and that's Lawson behind us in the Red Bull, the Carlin. I think no, that's a Rodin. Sorry, my mistake. As qualifying split into 2 sessions for us, as we were in the first session. Odd numbers take the first session, even numbers take the second session. Porcher finishing in P2 behind us. Lawson P3 as the rest of the cars come up to the end of the grid here in Monaco. As our 5 red lights are on, and they are off. We're off to an okay start. Porcher momentarily side by side with us, but as we're coming up to the first corner, we brake late. Lawson side by side with Porcher. Porcher forcing behind myself. That makes an opportunity for Lawson as we're coming up the hill side by side. I almost said 2x2, but we are not. We brake late again coming through this long left-hander to the end of sector 1, start of sector 2. I don't know quite where the line is. See, we're still trying to get some heat into these tires. We're coming down to the chicane. Very great shot. Been this shot for throughout the years I've been playing since I believe 2018 is how long I've been playing F1. And we're feeling really comfortable compared to season 1 of our driver career mode. We can see already a second between myself and Austin, but Monaco is pretty tough because you could lose a lot of time and gain a lot of time throughout this track, as you will see throughout the race. You see already 1.4, and then back down to 0.8 between myself and Lawson as we're coming up to the pool section. I'm not very comfortable through the sector 2, sector 3. Through this pool section, you can see we're braking a lot. Lawson already up behind us. We're already rounding out the end of lap 1. I didn't really feel confident at the start of this race, but qualifying was definitely better. The back end still trying to come out behind us as we're getting heat into these soft tires. And it's going to be about halfway through lap 2 that our tires were getting into the heat. 6 tenths or so between myself and Lawson. But by the time we get to lap 10, that's now 6 seconds. That's about, what? I'm not sure of the interval there. Is the back end still coming out? Coming out a lot greater now since we're 10 laps into using these soft tires. But you can see the gap between myself and Lawson here as we're taking a lot of curb on this hairpin. And about 6.1 now as we're getting ready for our pit.
In this lap, gap to Lawson is 6.7.
Some fresh new audio there for our mechanic. We decided to change it up and try to find one that was more realistic as we're coming up to the pit. 7.1 between myself and Lawson. 6.2 there. You see fluctuating up and down as we come into the pit lane. And I don't have to worry about the pit lane here, the pit lane speed, because as soon as you make that corner, that pit limiter is right there. So you don't really have to worry about penalties. I have the manual pit on. But so far, we haven't seen any issues. I believe that's the Carlin team in the very back. Seemed pretty fast to get out of the pit box. But this replay, at this moment of time, is at full speed. Coming out of the pits, P5, just ahead of Awasa as we're coming around turn 1. As the longevity of these supersofts are going to be in our favor with this overcast weather. Coming around lap 14, end of lap 14, I believe, for the start. As you can see, Williams, Porcher, Wassa, Vips all in the pits, and Lawson about 7.9. So that's about 8 tenths gained between us and Lawson.
The race here in Monaco for F2 has been everything but boring. We're already over halfway through this race, and it seems that Johnson has gotten into that groove he needed and is dominating the field today.
You were right, Crofty. He was off to an okay start compared to some of the other drivers. And even with DRS being allowed by the stewards on lap 3, he was easily able to get into that groove and just work his way away from traffic. Earlier at the start of the race, we saw Lawson and Johnson side by side as Lawson had the better start. But Johnson had put his elbow out and held on to that lead. And that's what allowed him to be so dominant so far in this race. The gap that he built so far has given him plenty cushion to relax and work on managing his tyres for the remainder of the race, as Lawson is still trying to chip away at that gap.
And Lawson is still up and down on that gap. We're 7.3 8.3, I believe, now 9.3 on lap 19. As the commentators were talking, it was about 8 seconds or so. But 2 laps to go, and we're basically taking care of these super softs. You can see the back end coming out a little bit as we're getting onto the straight. Little uneven ground doesn't help with our tire life. But we're feeling pretty confident. 2 laps to go, about 10-second buffer between myself and Lawson. Just need to make sure to manage these tires to the end of the race for our first victory in F2, pretty much, as we're coming around the last few corners before the end of this race. So that's going to be us in P1 for F2 as the back end comes out here in Monaco.
And Virtuosi have pulled off a great victory here today. Tell me, Davide, what was the key to this success?
I think this race was won thanks to the tire management. You have to remember, it's not just about going as fast as you can. It's about consistency. It's about maintaining your speed over an entire race distance. So being able to keep the lap time competitive while still respecting the tires, that's where they won today.
Another race and another victory for Virtuosi as we see the drivers make their way out to the podium for the final ceremony. Superb racing out there today and a well-deserved win. And now, let's take a look at the drivers' standings. Liam Lawson extends his lead at the top, getting ever closer to securing the championship. And so, driver of the day then, Davide Valsecchi, who do you think you'd go for?
I have to give it to Johnson.
On to the teams then. Carlin have extended their lead at the top of the standings. After all this drama, you would be mad not to join us for the next race. We hope to see you then. Take care.
Hello and welcome everyone to the post-race show here on the Paddock Podcast. So that was some exciting racing this weekend from all of the F2 and F1 drivers. I just had Sergio Perez here for the F1 session of the podcast, and we're moving on to the F2 portion of today. I'm sitting here with the F2 winner, Johnson. That was some mighty racing from you. How was the race out on the track for you?
The track was definitely in our favor. The overcast weather definitely helped with the super softs on the second stint. And overall, the team did really well with the pit stop and the communication. So we're pretty happy with the result for our race here in Monaco, and we're looking forward to many other wins throughout the rest of the season.
Definitely a fun sight on any street circuit to see some scraping along the walls and some sparks flying. It's great to have you on the show with us in person, and we will see you guys in the next one.